Hi, I'm Bob Ethington.
And I'm Nick Nicholas.
And this is From Akron and Beyond. Well, hi there, folks. Bob here. Hi, Nick. How are you?
Hey, Bob.
Well, we have a special guest in on this particular episode, and that is our friend Dave Swanson. Of course, you all know him from his Revolt into Style show here on the Summit, amongst numerous musical endeavors that he's been involved with over the years. And he has yet another one of those coming up, don't you, Dave?
That I do. No, it's not all mine, but I'm taking part in it.
You're part of it. That's right.
Yes.
And that is the show coming up on Friday, March 27th. That is sort of a celebration of the classic box set Nuggets.
Bob, is this the 50th anniversary of that?
I don't know.
No, the original album was released in 1972 on Elektra.
Okay, yeah.
It was a 2-record set.
And, of course, that was collated by, as they say, one Lenny Kaye. And he's a fascinating guy as well. But anyway, we love having Dave on. We have him on occasionally just to talk rock.
Yeah, just talk.
And since he's playing a small role, but pivotal in this Nuggets show coming up, we thought it'd be a good opportunity to talk about that famous Nuggets box set. Yeah. And I can't think of a better way to begin by just asking you, Dave, tell us about that famous Nuggets box set.
Well, originally it wasn't a box set. It was a 2-record set.
Double album, yes.
Came out on Elektra Records in 1972, and it was compiled by Lenny Kaye, who was hired by Jack Holtzman of Elektra to do such a thing. They wanted an oldies compilation, but one that wasn't just the typical like 1950s hits and stuff.
Right.
So he drew on stuff he loved, in terms of, a lot of these bands were known for this one song.
Yeah.
Right.
Or a lot of these bands were regionally successful and not across the country. So you have a lot of tracks that maybe were big hits in Detroit or Cleveland, but not so much on the West Coast or vice versa.
And these would be, a lot of this music would be maybe categorized today as garage rock.
At the time it was just rock and roll, and it was just basically a bunch of teenage kids across the country trying to imitate the Beatles and the Rolling Stones.
Exactly,
and stuff like that. And they weren't that good, so this is what they came up with.
Right.
And it turned into a thing unto itself. Whereas by the 1980s, bands were imitating the imitators,
right,
in kind of a cliche way, but sometimes still to great effect.
And covering these songs,
and just kind of taking that style as the blueprint,
Some of these bands, though, had long careers,
Oh, they did.
Like the Seeds had like 7 or 8 albums.
Right, and I mean, Guy Saxon kept playing until he was dead.
Yeah.
And the Electric Prunes had several albums. And,
right.
A bunch of those people were...
Love.
Yeah, there was studio, like the band Sagittarius that has one song on there. They weren't really a band. They were like a studio group. In fact, Glenn Campbell was one of the members at one point.
Really?
And they just, were they were signed as a group of studio musicians to create a psychedelic pop record.
Is Dennis Coffey part of that?
Dennis Coffey, no, he was the Detroit guy.
Yeah, I know the Detroit guy. But
what was the name of that band?
Sagittarius. My World Fell Down was the song that's on the album.
I think Dennis Coffey had an album called Sagittarius.
Oh, that could be, yeah. Yeah, I mean, he was on a bunch of records out of Detroit and stuff, too.
Right. You know what I find fascinating about this is talk about instant nostalgia. There's something about that decade of the late 50s into, say, the late 70s. So that's actually
mid-70s.
But, my point here is that, but punk is 77, classically.
Yeah.
But here's my point. Nick, let me make my point.
No.
We're talking about this being an oldies set. This is put together originally in 1972.
Right.
So that means that some of these songs are about 3 years old. 4 years old, I think 5 years old. They're not that old.
That's right.
Most of the songs on the record are from 66 and 7.
Yeah.
So, they were not that old. However, in the speed at which everything moved back then, they were seen as from a whole other planet.
And that is exactly my point.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Is that this is something that the longer that Nick and I are doing this show, and the more I think about a lot of these musical history kind of issues, it's just fascinating. I mean, people can have a very serious argument about which was the greatest year in rock history. Was it 66 or 67? And people will know what you're talking about. There is a difference in those 2 years, whereas
There's a grand difference.
you don't ever hear arguments about what was a better year, 88 or 89. No, I don't know. It all melts into one big 80s thing to me, or any other decade. That's something about the 60s that we all know.
Yeah, Rob.
We all know what music from 1965 sounds like, and we know what music from 1969 sounds like, and it's very different, and it's only 4 years apart.
Yeah, Robin Hitchcock would say 1967.
Yeah, well, and a friend of mine was so obsessed with 1967, his goal, which he practically succeeded at before he passed away, was to buy every record either recorded in or issued in 1967, regardless of genre. He would buy, soundtracks, classical, jazz.
It could be Ray Conniff
rock, whatever. It didn't matter. As long as
R&B.
The only one he was leaving out of the mix was the Moody Blues album. What's the big one with the orchestra? Just because he hated that record so much. But he swore that 1966 was the pivotal year for the artists themselves to have grown and become this other entity. But 67 is where it all exploded from that initial thing.
Right.
And I mean, there's a lot to be said for that, because after that, it really splintered into a lot more styles and subgenres and everything else like that.
Fragmentation.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, everything did move so quick, which is also why by the time you get to the Beatles, obviously, anybody from the 50s was just in the trash bin.
Right.
Despite the fact that, like, the Everly Brothers made their best records in the 60s.
Right.
Nobody cared. They were considered, old news. And
I mean, for me personally, a good example of what we're talking about is that today, 2026, I am a huge Elvis fan, Elvis Presley, and I love like his whole career, including like the later stuff, Vegas stuff. But having said that, when I was actually like a teenager and stuff in the into the 70s, very late 60s, but more into the 70s, to me, Elvis seemed Rudy Valley. It was just like ancient,
Yeah.
It was like, I can't even, music for me began with the Beatles.
Same here.
And even then, I really liked the later Beatles stuff more than I liked the early stuff, and there are Beatles fans that are like that. I mean, it's depending on age. It's like, I love them so I want to hold your hand, and they kind of drop off a little bit when it gets to like Sgt. Pepper.
Yeah.
They're kind of like, well, that stuff was okay, but it's not Help or
I mean,
or whatever.
I'll take on the argument that the British Hard Day's Night is their best album, just because it was first of all original material, and the songs are so great.
Yeah,
it's obviously you can't compare it to the later thing, but as a thing unto itself, it was So I mean, there's arguments to be made for all that
maybe
stuff.
the Beatles maybe they didn't cause this. I don't think they could have, but they exemplify this year by year progress.
Well, they were
or shifts
constantly
in
moving
music,
forward,
right? Yeah,
in their creativity, and they had the ability to do so because of George Martin and because of basically being so popular. They were given green light to do things that some new band would never have had the chance
that's
to.
the beginning of rock journalism too, where they were like judged. I mean, they were
Before
critiqued.
that, nobody, the most serious it got was Gloria Stavers in 16, and she was just talking if the band was cute or whatever like that.
Right.
It all started there.
Yeah, no, without a doubt.
Yeah.
But and
Bob
the
Dylan,
other thing,
Bob Dylan would be part of this shift too.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Every album was a move ahead.
people started taking it more seriously as an art form, and especially by the time, which is a favorite topic of mine, but the post Sgt. Pepper. I mean, I would not say it's my favorite Beatles album by any means, but that changed everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it changed the way advertisers advertised. It changed television shows, changed fashion, changed movies. It changed. After that point, everybody felt like, what happened to the old world? This is it. And you have Tony Bennett doing Beatles songs wearing love beads on his album. And you have all this because everybody wanted to feel like, they weren't left behind in the thing.
And almost every band at that time, rock band, had their version of Sgt. Pepper's, right? Like a concept
Imitation
record.
Life Gazette by the Four Seasons.
From the Beach Boys on.
To the Osmonds.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
the Plan. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. It's fascinating. Nick mentioned Robin Hitchcock, the great Robin Hitchcock, and of course he had that memoir that came out last year, focusing on the year 1967, and I found that to be fascinating because his point there was basically that music and through 1967. There was so much experimentation going on, so much, like the ideas were just flowing so freely. And you never knew like what an album was even going to sound like. It could have these sounds on it that you'd never even had heard before. And then he kind of attributes it to Bob Dylan's John Wesley Harding, and then of course the band. And you kind of get that period going into the 70, 71, where it's all of a sudden everybody's simplified and playing more simple music, or it's really heavy, like Zeppelin and bands like that, Sabbath.
Yeah, and I mean the whole psychedelic era was responsible for all that in the way of people wanting to get as far away from that as possible.
Yeah.
So one year everybody has an album that looks like Disraeli Gears.
Yeah.
And then the next year people have it's like a brown piece of wood.
It's perfect.
There's nothing else to it.
Yeah.
Or the people that were inspired, on the other hand, are the people that formed King Crimson and Yes and all that stuff. They took it that way and made it even more complex and more ethereal and
Right, exactly. I remember I saw Yes on their Relayer tour at Coliseum, and they had a program that you could buy, and I remember in it that they quoted one of the guys in the band, I forget who, John Anderson or Chris Squire, one of those guys, but they said what we're doing is we consider it to be a combination of the Beatles, Sgt. Pepper, and Mahavishnu Orchestra's Intermounting Flame. And I thought, okay, I kind of get what they're getting at there. Yeah. It's like they're trying to be poppy, but with as many notes as possible.
Yeah.
And as many time signature changes as possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
But let's get back to Nuggets.
Yeah.
So the Nuggets album originally is a double LP vinyl in 1972?
Yeah. 72 it originally came out. And like I said, I think most of the songs were from 66 and 7. I don't know that there was anything after that except possibly early 68. Because I know it does have Journey to the Center of Your Mind by Amboy Dukes.
Right.
That might have been an early 68 recording. But it's funny, too, because of that time period. So that was 72. 73, the movie American Graffiti came out, which was looking at 1962. And that was a huge movie and soundtrack. So there was definitely a sense of, oldies and of looking back at that point. You had Shana Na playing at Woodstock, which people forget. But I mean, there was
we try to forget.
Yeah, but there was a lot of boy, those were fun times kind of attitude. And like you said, that wasn't that long before that this stuff happened.
I find that amazing.
Yeah,
literally, it's like we're digging these nuggets out of the ancient ground from 4 years ago.
But they may very well have been forgotten were it not for, because that album came out in 72 and then it was reissued in 76 or 7 with a different cover. They used the Mouse and Kelly art studios from San Francisco to give it more of a hippie-ish look, I guess you'd say.
That's the one that I first
had. That was the one that came out in Sire. And it got a whole new audience because they tried to relate it to the punk thing, being garage punks, et cetera, et cetera. So that sort of catapulted it into, a whole other generation, which by that point, too, is only a few years later.
Again,
72 to 77, whatever. And then that would spawn, as you were mentioning before, the whole Pebbles series, which started in 79.
That was by Greg Shaw, right?
Greg Shaw, Bomp Records,
Yeah.
though it was listed as AIP Records, and it was supposedly Australian imports, but they were all just bootlegs from his record collection, and then others in the same mindset as the Nugget stuff, where they, I'll put all these great records on an album, press them up and sell them, and they didn't have the rights to it. They didn't have master tapes. They didn't even think beyond just the concept of it.
It probably would have been pretty difficult to reach a lot of those people.
And nobody
even
cared
then.
back
Right.
then.
No,
Right.
Tell us about that one, the one cut that everybody knew with the skit.
I think it's on the first volume.
Pebbles.
Pebbles. There was a song called Action Woman by The Litter, and there's a skip in it.
Action Woman.
For most people that would have heard that was the first place they heard it. So when they heard a real version without the skip, it sounded wrong. It sounded like, well, where's the part where, the record
Where it
jumps?
Yeah.
And there were other things that were, recorded off of a cassette and put on the vinyl. So, I mean, they were from the most accessible sources as opposed to seeking out the best. Now, even as years would go by and other people would do that same thing and put out these bootlegs, they tried harder. They would actually go in, especially with digital access, and clean things up and all that. But there was, the Pebbles series grew into like the 20s, like 20 volumes of it.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of them.
And there was Boulders, which was all British stuff.
Oh, I've got that one too.
Rubble, which was another of all British stuff. A series called Teenage Shutdown, which there was like 10 volumes of, I think. Back from the Grave, there's a bunch of those, and that was put together by a guy named Tim Warren, who had his own record label called Crypt, who put out a lot of, crazy, unhinged rock and roll stuff, new bands and old bands. And the first volume of that, I think half the songs are actually from a friend of mine's cassette.
Really?
That he had given him. They traded, stuff that each one didn't have.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden this stuff ends up on an album. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of funny.
I think I first heard Sandy Shaw on a Boulders, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Should became my favorite.
All those series just kept running and to this day, there's still other compilations that come out of nowhere, basically, that you think, how could that well not have run dry?
Yeah, right.
But people are still finding some weird record at a record swap or online or wherever, and or master tapes. There's within the last several years, people found these original tapes in their houses, and it turns out it was that was Dad's band, what he had and whatever, and it was just never used, and now it's out. So it's just kind of funny.
So the Nuggets sets, then eventually there was like a big CD box set.
Yeah, I have those.
Right.
Yeah, they took the original double and then
like 4 CDs. I think?
It was a 4 CD box, and a lot of it was comprised of things on these other albums mentioned, Pebbles and all that stuff. But they went to their master tapes. They got the real, the rights to use them, and the bands actually made a couple dollars from all that.
Right. Were there ever, to your knowledge, this is a tricky question, but were there ever legal issues that resulted from that album? Did anyone ever come and say, hey, I'm not getting paid?
From the original Nuggets?
Yeah.
I don't think so, because that was through Elektra.
Okay.
And they used a lot of stuff that was accessible to them through any of the Warner Brothers catalog.
Oh, sure.
As well as even stuff that was on other labels. It was, I'm sure, no big deal back then. Like, hey, we're going to put out this compilation. We want to use this and this. And it was a simple contract because nobody saw any big money. And there wasn't.
Never.
But it's more the history of it that's the interesting part, because of what it spawned and what people, the whole generation of kids grew up listening to that stuff, not knowing it was completely obscure music to most people because it was so readily available with the CDs and everything else like that.
Dave, when the second volume of the CD of Nuggets came out, was that never existed until the CD era?
No, when I've talked to Lenny, and he said the original plan was for it to be a series.
Oh.
And he had a second volume sort of mapped out, but then it just never happened.
Now, speaking of Lenny, that of course is Lenny Kaye, who is more famous today as being the co-founder and guitar player in Patti Smith's group.
Yeah.
But when he put Nuggets together, he was just working in a record store, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. I mean, he was
a writer too.
Yeah, he was a writer. He was active in the whole New York scene, and he knew a lot of the people that were involved from record labels and bands managements and stuff like that. So he was whoever's idea it was originally, which I can't remember if it was him going to them with suggesting this or if somebody there might have been Jack Holtzman suggesting this, but they knew that he was the guy to do it.
Right,
so,
right.
But yeah, that was, I mean, a side note of his entire career, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's one that's still talked about, which is kind of...
Well, he's still clearly proud of it, that he's being part of a show.
It's funny that we're talking about this, and there's a show, 50 plus years later, and could you imagine in 1972, people talking about, there's this great compilation came out from music from 1922.
Yeah, right. To my point earlier, yes, exactly. It's an odd shift.
He wrote a great book on different on rock and roll that came out about a year and a half ago.
Right.
Yeah, it was great about the different areas of the country where different things popped up. And
I know he also was involved in a book. I can't remember the title, but it was about the Fortune Records label out of I think it was Detroit. It was primarily like a soul and R&B label, but they had all kinds of crazy rock and roll stuff as well.
So this is From Akron and Beyond. This is Bob Ethington with Nick Nicholas, and we are talking with Dave Swanson about about rock music. But we're centering it a bit on the classic Nuggets compilation put together by Lenny Kaye, which is being celebrated this Friday, the 27th of March, at Beachland Ballroom with a concert with some local musicians and then a whole bunch of people contributing. How did this work, Dave? Now, Dave is one of the people who's going to contribute on this show. Now, I know that Lenny Kaye himself will be there playing, and Don Dixon, and
some Akron legends.
Akron heroes, Chris Butler, and Harvey Gold. And I'm missing somebody. Who's
James Mastro.
Yes, okay.
Who was in a band called the Bongos out of New Jersey in the 80s, and then he's been a part of Ian Hunter's band for the last 20 plus years.
Yeah, okay.
Really?
Right. So, and then there's going to be all kinds of different local people basically coming up to sing songs?
Yeah, I mean, they did this kind of thing in New York and Los Angeles a few years back.
Oh, okay.
I don't know who was all involved in the band then, aside from Mastro and Lenny. Mm-hmm. But, they had a band set up, and they would invite different vocalists to come up and sing. But when I was first approached about this, I said, well, who are you going to get to sing? Because, they do the show in New York and Patti Smith shows up, or whoever else. They do it in L.A. and, whatever different people that were around.
Right.
In Cleveland and Akron area, there's really no one of marquee name, if you want to say it that way. And a lot of people that they asked about are either dead, like Eric Carmen, Stib Baders, etc., or just don't participate anymore. Some of the other Dead Boys and other, people from 60s bands that are still around. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of this question mark. And then Chris Butler called me up the one day and said, hey, this is happening. Do you have any ideas on this? And so I started trying to think of singers, and I'll admit, in part, to keep it away from someone just saying, well, let's just call the School of Rock and get a bunch of kids down here to sing these. Just because the music, I mean, nothing against the kids doing their thing, but the music's 60 years old, and they would be coming into this in a way. I thought it would be better to have people at least have ties to the music.
Right.
And so between the folks at the Beachland and some of the other musicians and everything, people started submitting names, and little by little, people started saying yes, that they'd be interested in then picking a song.
I was going to ask. So did people get to choose their own song?
Oh, yeah, you get to choose your own song, and then a couple of people had to drop out along the way, and they, some people more enthusiastic than others, and it was just interesting to see how this played out.
Is this over a period of months?
Yeah. But the core band of Chris Butler on drums and Harvey Gold on keyboards, Don Dixon on bass, and then Lenny Kaye and James Mastro on guitars. And, they'll do their little set of a handful of songs, and then one by one, the different vocalists will come up and join in.
Should be a fun night.
So, yeah, it should be. I think it should go more smoothly than some people are thinking. It's going to be a mess trying to coordinate that, but that's why they wanted to concentrate on just having singers as opposed to whole bands coming up and having to switch things out.
That would be a mess. Probably.
But no, I mean, it'll be interesting to see, the songs people picked and how they approach them and everything like that.
No, they were supposed to choose songs from the Nuggets set, though?
But we stretched it out so it's not just from the album. It could have been from anything on the box set or anything related to that world.
Okay. All right.
Because the song I'm doing is not on the original LP, but it is on the box set.
What's that?
It's 5 Years Ahead of My Time by the Third Bardo.
Wow, I know that band.
They're a Texas band.
Yeah, Texas had all these weird psychedelic bands.
Oh, yeah. No, Texas was a healthy scene for that.
Yeah.
And our other special guest being quiet in the studio here is Miss Jessica, and she's doing the 13th Floor Elevators, You're Gonna Miss Me.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's a song I've got here that I was going to talk about. That's great.
So. Everybody's going into it with a really good attitude and a good spirit. I mean, I had called my friends from Scrawl in Columbus, and I think that Marcy jumped through the phone when I asked them, and she's like, "Oh, we'd love to do this," and without even giving it a second thought. So, and other people are like, "Well, I'll have to get back to you."
Right.
So,
so one of my favorite songs on the Nuggets set is Lies by the Knickerbockers, which I always think of as being like the best Beatles song.
Oh, yeah,
that isn't
absolutely.
by the Beatles, right? I mean, if you hear it, you think it's the Beatles, and it's about as good as some of the earlier hits. Just a terrific tune.
that is being done.
It is. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good. I'm excited already now. I was already excited. Now I'm even more excited. So, Nick, how about you? Do you have a couple of Nuggets favorites?
Well, you mentioned You're Gonna Miss Me, which is one. I said Pushing Too Hard by the Seeds.
Yeah, that's being done too.
And 7 and 7 Is by Love.
That is also.
Really? All right.
all the hits are coming in. Keep those phone calls and letters coming in.
So how about you, Dave? Give us a couple of particular favorites of yours off the album.
Off the original album? Boy.
Or even the bigger box, if you care.
I mean, all that stuff is so much a part of my being. I don't know if I could whittle it down. I mean, there's a song by The Gestures called Run, 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 which is a great one. There's Gonna Make You Mine by The Shadows of Night. It was not on the original, but it's on the box set. A lot of the British ones from the second Nuggets box are just, amazing records. And,
right.
I don't know if there's not one particular.
Is that being included in the show, the British stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think somebody is doing one from that, or maybe two. I mean, there's just so much to pick from.
Sure.
And you go down the line, and it just gets more and more obscure to some, and to others, they know those records like inside and out.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I remember, as we've been talking about this, I've been wandering in my mind down memory lane and remembering really when I first got the Nuggets set and just playing it all the time.
Yeah.
And just thinking,
Same here.
how, first of all, what a great compilation it was, and how just every song on it is fun.
Yeah.
And good. And part of that is because of how well chosen it is. But also what hit me was just, how there were the bands that, obviously went on to, longer careers or whatever, but just how many great one-hit wonders there were, or not even necessarily, as you pointed out, Dave, they may be hits, but very localized.
Yeah, I mean, there were
hits.
some, when I first heard the record, I remembered some of the songs from AM radio, and then other ones I definitely had never heard before.
Yeah, right.
So, again, this probably got played in Cleveland, but not,
Right.
in other, or some of the other songs got played there, but, not in other cities. And
Sure.
One of my favorite songs on there is by the Choir.
Oh, yeah.
It's Cold Outside.
Yeah.
Did that have any kind of sales outside of this area?
Yeah, it made, I don't remember a number. I'm not that good at stockpiling the information, but it did make the Billboard charts.
Did it?
Yeah. Not like a top 10 thing, but I mean, it made it well enough to be known amongst, people who were fans of that era. But yeah, you hear that and you think that should have been a much bigger hit. And possibly if they had, better management behind them or a better recording budget, who knows what it was why it didn't. But that's the question with how many bands and how many records, what made that record take off that eluded so many other ones.
You have the singer from the Choir, original Choir, is
Yeah.
going to be part of the show. Am I
Yeah.
correct? What's his name?
I think it's Dan Kowan is the one that's taken part in it. Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
And they've got Mike Pierce is his name. He was the singer in a band called the Alarm Clocks. Who actually have somewhere over the last couple decades reformed, and they have a long history. They put out 145 when they were 16. They were from Parma, and it got distributed to their aunts and uncles and their friends, and nothing else until it showed up on that first Back from the Grave, and then all of a sudden it became garage rock gold, and people were paying hundreds of dollars for an original copy. And the rest of the band, like I say, they were kids and they did this, and that was the idea behind a lot of these records. They were just like, let's make a record. We want to sound like the Rolling Stones. Okay.
Right.
So they would do that. In that band, the Alarm Clocks, the drummer ended up in Damnation of Adam Blessing. But the other guys didn't do anything, in the music business until the 2000s. And then, they discovered that people were paying big money for this record, and they started looking into it. And the one label, Norton Records, who had put out a version of it without, royalties and whatnot, were more than happy to step back up and say, hey, we'll gladly pay you for the thing if we can put it out legitimately. So they did. And that led to them playing shows and recording a new album. And so you just never know what these little seeds planted 50, 60 years ago, all of a sudden,
Right. It is amazing. And it's also amazing how bands that, as Dave points out, were, basically kids having fun.
Yeah.
I think when people hear the term garage rock, sometimes they're like, they are happy, and other times they think of that as being just
negative. Yeah.
Well, primitive, poorly played music. But no, it means really, literally, like it was a bunch of kids who got together and the only place that their parents would let them play because it was loud and a racket. And so it was like, go do that out in the garage.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing too with that is it's over the years, it's gone from being a description of what took place, meaning kids playing in the garage,
Yeah.
to it becoming an actual style.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
when people started imitating the style is when it kind of got watered down. Like, well, we have to have a Farfisa solo.
Yeah.
We have to have a fuzz guitar solo. We have to have whatever. And it kind of ruined the spirit of the original, hey, we don't know what we're doing. Let's,
Just do this.
I mean, there was a
yeah.
band out of Columbus area called the One Way Streets. And they did a 45, same kind of thing, a one-off thing. And I think the one side was Jack the Ripper, which was a song by Screaming Lord Sutch, the British guy. And the other side was one of their own compositions, and it was called We All Love Peanut Butter. And you think, you can't get more topical than that, especially during the Vietnam era, But, it's just, they weren't trying to be American Idols. And that's what's always so funny when you see the American Idol kind of shtick. And they're talking to these people about what kind of artists they are.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. We know.
One song that is on the Nuggets comp and is also on probably about 100 other albums, which by 100 different bands, and it's always amazed me, I've never quite understood it, is Hey Joe. Which it seems like every band in 1966 covered that song. And if I'm not mistaken, I think there's actually a book has come out about this
telling me
recently.
earlier. Yeah, I think
and
so.
I'm curious about this book because I've been thinking about this for years. I'm kind of mad this guy beat me to the book because it's a great idea. Why that song? I mean, it's a song about a guy murdering somebody, a
his
woman,
girlfriend,
and it's like, but everybody played that.
Everywhere. Everybody
Love
from
has a
Love,
version. Hendrix, of
The
course, had a
Byrds.
famous
Who's the
one.
one on? Who's the one on this
The
version?
Leaves.
The Leaves, LA band.
Are they a Detroit band?
LA.
L.A.
And they had a genuine hit with it in Los Angeles.
And it's a good version.
And
actually.
and that's the thing too. Someone somewhere had a hit with it, so some other band halfway across the country decided, well, let's us try our version of it.
Right.
But I don't know if it was just because of the simplicity.
Yeah, it's easy to play.
I mean, there's so many of these songs that have what I would always call this I'm Not Your Stepping Stone chord progression, where it's just this ascending riff.
Right.
And that's another one of those. It's just riff repeated over. And so even if you didn't know the words, you could make something up and it would seem okay.
It is. Well, that's interesting. That was a real phenomenon of that era as well, is bands covering songs that were brand new or at least only a few months old or a year old, I mean, even with big, names on big labels like Rod Stewart doing Street Fighting Man,
right.
a year after Beggar's Banquet. It's just kind of, that doesn't happen so much anymore.
Well, people were always looking for new material, especially if they didn't consider themselves a songwriter
right.
by, trade. They were more of a singer, which was Rod Stewart's case, obviously, initially. So he was always looking for a good song that would suit him. And, I mean, I think that was true with a lot of those people.
Absolutely.
They weren't necessarily – it wasn't until people became much more aware of, well, if I wrote the song that's on the B side and it's a hit, I can get some money out of this.
Right. There was a lot of naivete and people, frankly, getting robbed by managers and record companies for rights on songs and stuff. Sure, that's legendary. Famous producers putting their name on a song that they didn't have anything to do with writing. Which still exists today, actually.
Well, there's countless examples of. I mean, and not just the little guys. It's the famous
Billy Joel thing.
I don't know what's that.
Well, his brother-in-law ripped him off in the early days of publishing things like that.
Oh, okay, yeah. Now I was going to say the It's Only Rock and Roll by the Rolling Stones was written by Ron Wood. Mm-hmm. And in fact, the actual record is the Faces, basically. But Mick told him, as the legend has it, if you let us have this, you'll be in the band. So he said, okay. And so it's credited to Jagger Richards, even though it basically was a Ron Wood song that Jagger contributed to.
Uh-huh.
But it's Kenny Jones on drums, and it's Ron Wood on guitar. I forget who plays bass, but yeah, just kind of.
Wow.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Well, the Stones were, are A, awesome, and B, thieves. We know that.
The Awesome Thieves. There's a new band.
Not a bad name.
I think they're playing the week after.
I was just going to say we're talking about the event this Friday at the Beachland. There's also a really cool event the day before, the night before, Thursday, right, at the Rock Hall.
Yeah, it's a Q&A session with Lenny Kaye.
Oh, okay.
And just be talking about his whole history in music, basically.
Which would be, in that case, quite interesting.
Yeah.
And that's that's Thursday. I think it's 7. And then the show at the Beachland is Friday at 8.
Okay, yeah.
And there are still tickets for both available.
Our listeners, get out there and check it out for sure. Yeah. I was just thinking as we were talking about this, I used to think some years ago that I'd feel bad for bands that were still touring that were really had made it in the 60s or the 70s. I mean, I'm like, whoever, the Guess Who or, whatever. Just like, oh, this is sad. Half the people aren't even from the original band or, famously, sometimes it's only the drummer is from the original band. But, as time has gone on and the more you know about these stories, it's like, first of all, a lot of these guys basically bargained their futures to be in these bands. But by the time everything ended for them, they were almost 30. What were they going to do then? They ended up getting whatever kind of job they could get, but it was never going to be the same as playing in a band, thousands of people. And on top of that, a lot of these bands, if not the majority of them, got ripped off terribly by the record companies and their managers. So, of course, somebody like Eric Burden is going to keep touring. He's probably making more money
I'm sure
now than he made when they had the hits.
Well, it was not that long ago. 10 years ago, he was playing. He played "Rockin' on the River" in Cuyahoga Falls.
Jeez.
Yeah,
maybe 15 years ago.
Yeah, and he probably actually made some money doing that.
You mentioned the Guess Who, and I know they just recently got the rights back to their name.
What?
Randy Bachman and singer
Burton Cummings.
Couldn't remember. Yeah. They hadn't played together for years, but there was a Guess Who on the road because somewhere along the way, a manager ended up with the rights to the name, and he put together a whole new band, sent them on the road, and not to question the intelligence of the general public, although need not look too far for some of that, but they don't know. They just want to hear the songs.
Right.
And I mean, so they just recently got the rights back, and now they're out touring as the Guess Who.
That's why.
That happens more often than you'd think.
Bands like Foreigner have no original members.
Mm-hmm. Really?
They're just, but people don't care. They just want to hear those songs.
Right.
And it's all just kind of blends into the woodwork.
Remember that the group that was out for a while, It's a Beautiful Day?
Oh, yeah.
And that album was litigated out of existence?
The first, yeah.
Yeah. Well, with Whitebird.
Right.
I mean, that album and the Moby Grape albums, they're all...
By that one manager, there's a...
Oh, yeah. No, there was a lot of people that just had nothing better to do than basically hold stuff against people that...
creative.
Yeah. No, it's crazy when you look back. I mean, so many bands got screwed out of money or out of opportunities as far as not being able to tour. I mean, for years this is like I think 69, 70, there was a fake Zombies on the road.
Right.
Because they had broken up, and then after they broke up, Time of the Season became a big hit.
Yeah.
So some manager somewhere got the idea, well, let's put together a Zombies.
Right.
Send them on the road, and most people don't know the individual members of most bands, let alone what they looked like or what the story is. Back then, especially.
Yeah.
So as long as they heard those couple hits, I mean, and some people just do it because they don't know what else to do. I remember one time seeing, I think it was Michael Clark, the Byrds drummer, at like a fair in Mentor in the 80s. And I remember seeing Flo and Eddie at Great Northern Mall. Mm-hmm. It had to be the most depressing, these geniuses who were involved in all these great records.
Michael Clark, how was that billed?
Michael Clark of the Byrds.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't billed as the Byrds.
Okay.
No. But I mean, it's. I guess what are some of these people going to do? I mean, they make a few bucks doing that, so they choose to do that. But
yeah.
It's got to be depressing to some degree too.
Well, even the biggest names in rock ended up getting ripped off royally. I mean, the Beatles did, Elvis did, the Stones did. I mean, so you can imagine what happened.
Anybody
to
with
these,
Bob Dylan's manager.
Yeah, right, right.
Goldman?
Albert Goldman, yeah. So, you have to figure that, all these more mid-level bands are definitely in danger of coming out of the whole career with very little money.
And when if you just look at people want nostalgia and people want to hear these songs,
right? It
doesn't necessarily matter if there's any credibility in the equation or not. It just,
right.
So
yeah, exactly. But that will not be the case on this coming Friday.
Well, this is done with definitely just a better sense of celebration of the music as opposed to trying to pawn something off on somebody. That,
this is my point.
It's the Patti Smith group. Well, it's just Lenny Kaye.
Yeah. You have the sort of stamp of approval of the guy who put this thing together in the first place, and I guess you have to have a little suspension of disbelief as a bunch of guys in their 70s are playing songs written by 16-year-olds, but they're great songs, and these were people that grew up on the songs.
It'll be a fun night.
It won't be them trying. It won't be imitating because these songs are in your guys' blood,
right? And the other thing too. I mean, years ago, the idea of the Rolling Stones existing in 2026 was akin to the Martians have landed and whatever. I mean,
absolutely,
no one would have ever thought that would be happening.
Right.
But it was almost like an unspoken bet of like, as long as the Rolling Stones are still going, we can't break up or we can't stop. We got to do this, whatever. And so these bands keep going. A lot of them long past their sell-by date.
Yeah.
But other ones still got something to prove or something that they want to play or say when they're with their music. And it's funny how these things sometimes work better than you would have expected. I mean, I was just talking to a friend the other day, and you know how much I love the Monkees.
Yeah.
But their album from 10 years ago that came out to 2016 is the best album, I think, from any 60s band in their later years. I mean, it's better than any Rolling Stones album in the last decades.
Is that the one that they had some songs written by various people?
Yeah,
like
I mean, like there's a song by Paul Weller.
Yeah,
and
that's a great album.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a great album. And there's an old track of Harry Nilsson's, and there's the guy from Fountains, or not Fountains of Wayne, or from what was that band? Death Cab for Cutie.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And just a bunch of different people, along with old tapes that they discovered that were never used, and they added to them. So there's a mix of the newer and the older, but it was done with such a freshness on their part that you wouldn't guess it was like these old guys just kind of rehashing.
Oh, no, not at all.
What's the title of that again?
Good Times was the name of the album.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really, really good. And again, this was like, with using younger musicians, but who were all fans and were imbued with that Monkees aesthetic, and so they could write these songs that
Andy
fit
Partridge from XTC.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, especially with the having the original guys singing them. So yeah, it was terrific. Yeah. Well, I'm looking at the time, and we're kind of run out of time, which always happens with you, Dave.
I just want to shut up.
We're going to go part 2 right now.
But Dave has to go and start rehearsing for this song. So get his. He doesn't want to mess up his pipes.
The song only has 3 chords.
Well, Nick and I will be there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're very much looking forward to it. And so. Anyway, thanks for this trip down memory lane and a trip to actually what's coming up this weekend with Dave Swanson.
Should
Always
be fun.
A great time having you on. We will do this again.
Thank you very much.
And so thank you, Dave, and thank you for everyone out there. Thank you, everyone out there, for listening.
Yeah.
And this is Bob Ethington with Nick Nicholas. This has been From Akron and beyond.
So long.